In 1975, I built the Estes Andromeda model rocket, which was a great model rocket. It was very long, very detailed, very cool. I built it, and while I was waiting for its first flight, I had it in my closet and some books fell on it and caused some damage to the body tubes. And I repaired that damage to attempt to fly it, and when I did, the thing folded in half, shot sideways, spun around and shot into the ground, shattering into pieces. Just totally coming apart. What I didn't realize is that the damage caused from the books falling on it was much more significant than I thought. The area that I repaired actually stayed in place, but there was damage elsewhere and flexibility issues that caused this thing just to come apart. So, unbelievably, I have almost all the pieces. Here's the tail section, the main fuselage, the part of the fuselage that was completely thrown off. You can see the damage that the ejection charge did. Wings, I lost one of the smaller wings with antenna. The dowels that connected here back to the tail section were just completely shattered, so they weren't worth saving. I have the nose cone and parachute as well, and of course they never ejected out of the body. So my plan was always, buy another Andromeda and make it. But what I thought I would do, as insane as this sounds, is repair this shattered rocket. And although I probably won't fly it again, fix it to the point that I could fly it again. And there's a lot of interesting problems. First of all, the initial build wasn't all that great. I was still rather young, and but it was complete. And I've noticed that even though this looks like totally unfixable, all the pieces, including the paper rings and everything, are still on there. So, for laughs, I'm going to rebuild this thing. What I'm going to do is replace the sections of the body tube that are broken or shattered or weakened. A good example of this is, although this looks like it's solid, it's not, and you can see if I flex this a little bit. You can see the wrap right there is really damaged. And also, there's some obvious issues, because if I put a straight edge, I'll try to show you this, because it's hard to see on this video, but it's easy to see if you do something like this. Put a straight edge along the body, you can see the body draping off. It's bent, it's torqued. So there was more damage than I had originally caught. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and segment where it makes sense. And then from the aftermarket, I've got this beautiful item that, instead of using rather short tube couplings, this is one big huge tube coupling. I'm going to cut off whole sections of this for extended strengthening where I need it. And then what we're going to do is, I thought about using a heat gun and salvaging the reactor wraps here. But what I'm probably going to do is, although they're not exactly the same, Semrock sells these separately. I'm probably just going to put new ones on. But if you can believe this, we're going to attempt to section this, make it the exact same size. I have all the sizes of all the tubes that were used, so I know exactly how long it should be and at what point. Replace the missing dowels here, the wings, repair the tail section, reattach the tail section, and then spot spray it. I'm not going to respray or paint repaint the whole model. I'm just going to clean it up. That's all the original decals. I'm going to keep that. This whole section right here up to about this point is fine, and the nose cone's fine. It's from here back that obviously is problematic, and it's smashed the heck out of the back. Space sails, I think, is what they called this. If you download the original instructions, they're really cool because it went into a whole bunch of detail about what this spaceship would have been, and they were estimated it would launch somewhere between 1985 and 1990. It was very cool and very cute. This right here, this is actually a BT-50, short BT-50 body tube that is sitting over a BT-20. And getting this cut out and then re-sleeved is probably going to be the hardest part of the whole project. But I'm going to do it. And I'm going to make this, even if I never fly it again, I'm going to make this flyable. And doing some research reading, I heard that I'm not alone, and I think it was a problem that this is an awful thin body tube to make such a long rocket out of, and a lot of people had problems with creases and breaking and the thing folding when it launched. So I'm not the only one, but I'm going to put this back together, and then I'm going to do the smart thing and not put it up against a wall or on a shelf. I'm going to hang it so that it can never be crushed again. So onward and upward. Okay, here's the first part of the surgery. It's kind of hard to tell, but in between these two balsa supports for the wooden dowels that make up the antennas, the original body tubes were joined here with a body coupler. Evidently, when I tried to repair this millions of years ago, I attempted to use another tube coupling and fix a break right here, which actually was a pretty good repair, but it was slightly on an angle, or it became on an angle just over time or something, being in storage. So when I cut through and discovered this engine block, no real way to salvage this. I mean, I thought about cutting back and putting a tube here and salvaging these fins. I may still be able to salvage these things, but I thought, you know what, let's replace all of this with a new fresh body tube. So what we did was we cut all the way over here past where this was damaged to the first really strong area of this piece. And then what we're going to do, if you can see this kind of fit together here, we're going to replace this entire section. So how we're going to do it is we're going to take a new BT-20 body tube, which I've already cut, okay, make one more cut right here to where the other body tube would join it, and then a new body tube that goes back to the fin unit. We'll join it here, and then we'll reattach the antenna mounts right here. Here is the original body tube, and here is the new one put into place. We're going to either transfer or make new these balsa supports for the antennas, the dowels, and put them in the right place. Next, we carefully moved the top fin back in a proper position and alignment and put in new glue fillets, or do you like to call them fillets? Fillets. Glue fillets. We put new glue fillets in. Here we are re-gluing and strengthening the fins, or as they call in this model, the sails, as well as realigning and re-gluing this crunched up pod right here. And you can see we are redoing the rings and everything back to as close as we can get, and then we'll touch them up with paint. It's coming along pretty good. And we'll get the other pod on after this dries, and then the antennas, start working on the antennas. Here's how it's going right now. This is the tail section that is being rebuilt as we speak. Here is the new tubing. Okay. We are going to replace, we actually took this section out because it was too weak. We are cutting these new standoffs out of fresh balsa that are going to go right here. Here is the pattern for them. Okay. And then from those standoffs, I've got new dowels that are going to go down like this up to the sails. So you're seeing kind of how this is going to go back together. So the original pieces are the portion of the BT-20 that's undamaged that goes from here all the way into here in this area right here. This is all the original rocket, the original nose cone, original parachute, and this original tail section. Everything else was really too weak. I was going to try to salvage some of this stuff, but it's really too weak. There's weak spots in here too. There's actually a crack there, and yeah, I could strengthen it with a bunch of tubing couplers, but you know, and I thought of that. I'm going to keep all the old pieces just for laughs, but I'm replacing them with new tubes, and it should be quite interesting. I'm done. Test fitting and preparing for the conduits. My wife made new cardboard rings on her Cricut system according to my dimensions, and they came out great. And we are replacing the section of the rings that were crushed and beyond repair. No, they were at one time all part of, you know, the original 3 rings, but these are still glued and in great shape. These were really crushed. So we're replacing the segment of each disc. The replacement rings have all been installed. They're looking good. The other ones have been strengthened. And they need touch-up paint. And everything, of course, needs some paint. The front launch lug has been placed appropriately. Now we have the bottom portion, and we have the front portion now glued together. That joint is really nice. Nice and smooth. This part of the rocket was put together by myself in 1975. This section here is all new, 2025. And this section was also put together in 1975 by me as 13 or 14 years old. And we made the repairs, keeping as much originality and that level of skill in terms of constructing it. Just bringing it back, replacing the crushed radiator rings, strengthening the old ones that were still reusable, and doing a bunch of other stuff. Took a while, took a little longer than I thought. This is all new. Going up to the original front, and I've got the original nose cone and parachute. Here we are masking off with some paper towels and what's called delicate surface tape to try not to lift any of the old paint. And we've made it kind of jaggedy to help with eliminating an appearance of lines of new versus old paint. and try to make it a little more kind of a gradual blend. And we're going to tape off this pod right here, which we want to keep original with the original decals, and then flip over and do the same thing on the other side. And then we're going to mask off the forward part of this nose cone, and then we're going to spray it.